All right. Hello, everybody. Of course, my name is Josiosi Samuels, and you are tuning in to episode 57, I believe, of the It Will Come Show. And today we're going to be talking about new beginnings. And, excuse the background stuff. If you're tuning in for the first time, I am live streaming from my bedroom. Yes, so as everybody else is right now, we're all kind of isolated at home or doing our best to help, reduce any sort of spreading of coronavirus or contracting it. And right now is probably the most responsible thing to do. So with that, today we're going to be talking about new beginnings. New beginnings because right now, even though things do still look very grim for a lot of people, it's also a chance to be able to reset, reinvent, and see if you can actually provide yourself with a new beginning. It might be a time to let go of things that are no longer serving you as well. Everything right now is going to be about just focusing on yourself, and in the process, is actually going to be helping out the entire world. So I'll go into things from tech to global news right now, political, even astrological, and I'm going to bring them all together just so that you can see how you can create your own new beginnings, if that is definitely something that you've been thinking about recently. So, without further ado, let's dive in to some of the news headlines. So, okay, right. Definitely over the last 24 hours, I've been getting quite a lot of news articles sent to me. This one being, a lot of countries have been locking down, but India, for sure, you just think about the magnitude of this, right? And like how crazy it must be for a country with like billions of people. Singapore as an example, only about I think 5-6 million, I believe. Ooh, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a good couple million, and it's much easier for them to be able to change things quickly if they need to, right? When you got billions of people, different scale, different measures. And a place like India, too, is not, there's a lot of poverty there as well. So I'm pretty concerned about what this lockdown will mean for families who are already struggling and now will need to figure out how to feed themselves without having any stores open or any way to provide. Now, if there are villages or slums that are when I say self-sufficient, have means of being able to get food regardless, then great. But I don't see this panning out too well. But it is what it is, We're trying to stop the spread of many things, and around the world, many countries are deploying their armies to keep and to enforce people to stay at home. Which, for conspiracy theorists, a lot of them may be asking why, right? Is there something more? But I'm not a conspiracy theorist myself. Just taking in a lot of the different viewpoints that are kind of being shared around at the moment. So, India is on lockdown. You can see here, no panic buying. Please stay indoors. Now it's being enforced. I have friends and colleagues who are in India as well. Everyone's going to feel it. Right? Everyone is going to feel it. You can see here, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Thailand. Even though Asia has, in my opinion, done quite well to contain things, there are still many countries within Asia who might not be as prepared either. So, all right, this particular article is one that I saw on the internet recently, and this is actually more to do with digital assets. And the reason I bring this up because it has to do with cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin, but it's actually, I'm sharing this because it has to do with sort of just other things that are happening in the background that will, when things settle down in the world, will be scrutinized or looked at even more deeply. Reason being is that right now, as things are going crazy around the world with the pandemic, there are also being pushes by governments to legitimize, a digital currency for their nations, to really push for a digital currency, a national one that will allow people to allow their nation to go cashless, right? Because right now, if people decided to go to the banks and withdraw all their cash, they will not be able to, right? This is something that is being guarded against and sort of not, I won't say plan for, but as part of the banking system that we have currently, right? For every dollar you put in, about 90% of that might get loaned out. So what that means is, of course, it's in banks' interests and even national government's interest to keep people from not withdrawing their money out of banks in terms of physical cash, because the banks would not be able to do it, right? And this is probably something that has led to our financial crises, right, in general. In Argentina, I think it's Argentina, I believe they did close a lot of their banks already. So people have already moved to cryptocurrencies as a form of payment between one another. There are 1,000,001 cryptocurrencies out in the market right now, which probably doesn't help as well. But you can see that trend and push towards a digital currency because, if people aren't able to withdraw their physical cash, what else do they have? Throughout time, throughout history, gold typically has been sort of a store of value during times like this, but we've been seeing some interesting movements in gold as well, and in the sense that it hasn't done an inverse correlation with stock market going down or the markets going down in general. Usually you'd see gold prices go up, but that hasn't happened, and I think it's because of this introduction of cryptocurrencies and digital currencies in general. So, just sort of have this in the back of your mind. If this is going over your head, it's okay. But I bring this up because money has made the world go round, right? And right now we're seeing what will happen if money gets taken out of the equation. Because if you look at money, currencies, especially currencies, right? They are simply IOUs, and it's a form of trust that we trust the government to be backing these currencies whenever we're trading with one another. Now, if that trust goes, what value does currency have itself? So again, connecting that to the push for digital currencies. So just keep your eye on news that you see happening while all this chaos is going on in the world. More governments are going to be pushing for some sort of central digital currency. And this is actually why I've been such a big supporter of something like Bitcoin to be, not controlled by a central government, because it just... Yeah, a lot of problems have come from this, and I think we're definitely in the midst of seeing changes systemically on all fronts, right? Because everybody, even just from working from home, people are being pushed to innovate, try new things, and go back to the basics. And I'll keep talking about this during this time. Going back to basics, go into fundamentals, thinking about ways to reinvent yourself, analyzing your business if you got a business. Is this actually what I want to be doing, right? Is this actually what is important to people right now? When people go into survival mode, are they going to be wanting to talk about blockchain? Are they going to be wanting to talk about AI and ML? Nobody's going to care as much. They might provide some good solutions for those who have the brilliance to be able to, work on that very quickly right now. But for many others, it's just going to be how do I make money? How do I survive? And this is probably going to be the general focus, right, for the next couple months for a lot of people. Because with the pandemic, wave 1, and then we've got wave 2, the recession, and then after that, depression. And I'm calling this out. I think we are going to, the last time we saw a depression was the 1920s. I think we're going to see a depression this time. It's been about 100 years. So there's this article as well that was shared in our PAC program. So if you haven't heard of the PAC before, I'll talk more about it during the week. It's a productivity accelerator that has gained quite a bit of interest recently because of everybody working from home. It's a productivity accelerator that essentially leverages the collective. It isn't just about individual productivity, but how you can leverage off of your peers in a manner that gets you motivated, right, and helps you stay focused, especially during these times. And members have been saying that it's been sort of like a safe space, a lifesaver, right, during these times, to know that you still have this strong community available. And I definitely emphasize that a lot right now. If you are looking for a community, right, or have a community, it's it's time to start banding together online and to keep each other supported, right? That support networks are going to be very crucial during this time, even more so than money. So this article was sent in our Slack channel, Social Change in the Age of Social Distancing, right? And it's funny, that word again, social distancing. I think we should call it physical distancing, because we can still be social online. And so with this here, I think they were just providing some ways to help others, right? Especially if you're a social entrepreneur. And if you're not familiar with social entrepreneurship, It's just taking the entrepreneurial aspects and applying it to social good, social causes. And so with that, there's a lot that can be done, right? In terms of entrepreneurship, to impact society and to have a social impact in general that benefits both from an environmental standpoint, all levels. So this particular article, I'll put it in the comments of this YouTube video after I'm done. But these are just some links to some things that you can do if you are a social entrepreneur or if you're interested in social entrepreneurship. All right, and so this is a good question, right? What are you doing or what are you seeing that builds community at this time? There was a quote: "We shape ourselves to fit this world, and by the world are shaped again. The visible and the visible working together in common cause to produce the miraculous." The author of this article, Tom Dawkins, he says this is the essence of community building to him in the age of social distancing. It's the visible and the invisible. Working together, still capable of producing something miraculous, still capable of creating the future we need together. And I would agree with this. That I'm going to be often talking about this, the importance of yin and yang, the importance of balancing both light and dark, the good and bad during this time. So even though I'll share, some maybe shocking news, I will also be sharing its opposite, just so you know that both are always present in any scenario, in any situation. All right. So next, I was talking about the pack, right? And what I found interesting over the last 24 hours is that people were finding some old posts of mine that had to do with the pack. And I think this is because, right, people are either losing their jobs, business has come to a screeching halt, people are looking for hope, inspiration, motivation, and they're turning to the web. And so I wrote this article, as you can see, on the 10th of February, and it's called "How I Solved Entrepreneurial Loneliness During Hard Times." Again, I'll share the link afterwards so you can have a read through, but it's sort of the story of how I actually came to birthing the pack itself. It's now been running for about 5 years, and people have been DMing about the pack as a result of this. So if this is something you're interested in as well, if you find yourself stuck at home alone, and you're feeling a little bit unmotivated, I'm hearing a lot of people are feeling that way, especially if you're not used to working from home, then this could be a really good program to help keep you on track, help give you some daily accountability, help be amongst a group of people who are used to this and who have been able to thrive during this. So if you're interested in it, comment below or just click on the link after this live stream is done. So we have, of course, already seen this. Australia. So I used to live in Australia, and Australia has been a very interesting nation to observe over the years, over the last 2 decades, because in 2008, when we had the first global financial crisis, there was Australia was pretty much untouched. They were reaping the benefits of their mining boom because they have a very strong mining industry. But over the years, that has started to dry out, and Australians have had to learn how to innovate and figure out, okay, what next? Again, using Singapore as an example, they were also a nation that had to learn how to, not rely so much on their trading wealth, but then also think about how can we innovate, how can we become known more for maybe areas in the knowledge economy or fintech, etc. So every country has to go through this, and they should never rest on their laurels. So Australia right now, you can see their house prices could fall about 20% as a result of everything happening right now. In Australia, I remember for real estate that the general consensus is, right, like it always goes up. And, Australia hasn't really seen much of a dip in housing prices. But as a result of what's happening now, they could. And I think it's good because things like this is what is humbling, right? If you look at cycles, things do not, in our physical known universe, things don't go up indefinitely, right? What goes up must come down. As above, so below. These are very simple principles to remember. Because when times are good, you should always prepare for when times are bad. And when times are bad, you should expect that things will get better and that they will get good again. But if you are, in the real estate market, you might be already feeling this, or if you're in Australia especially, be prepared. Be prepared. It is going to be a buyer's market. There are probably going to be a lot of sell-offs. You have an aging population as well that, they have a lot of wealth, and they have a lot of physical properties, and so they may start to just sell off during this time. Now the problem is, because right now we are experiencing a recession and maybe going into a depression, people may be trying to sell, and also then on the buyer side, people might be less willing to buy. So this is going to be a time for the brave, those who have been storing up cash, right, to be able to purchase. These guys will benefit the most. But this is just another thing to look out for. Right. Again, another signal from Australia as well is that the Aussie dollar has been quite impacted by everything happening right now. And the reason I'm focusing on Australia right now is because they're just sort of one signal for one part of the world that just has a cascading effect everywhere else. So with the Aussie dollar, I think they're 0.58 to the US dollar, $1 right now, which is crazy low, right? And because at one point in time, I remember I was in Australia when the Aussie dollar was stronger than the US dollar for a brief moment in time. And now it's plunged to almost half, right? So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens. I believe Singapore, I heard that Singapore might also be expecting some losses in the strength of their dollar as well. So right now the US dollar is holding strong, but I don't even see it holding that well for long either. I think the only reason it's strong is because of the 700 billion that was just created out of thin air as part of the stimulus package. So let's see, right? Gosh, I am not okay with this cookie stuff, but anyways. I thought this was pretty fascinating. This was interesting. Older people would rather die than let COVID-19 harm the U.S. economy. I think this was talking about U.S. patriotism, that there are those who would rather just go out and work, and if they die, they die. You can see here, don't sacrifice the country, right? And I remember seeing a quote from Trump, too, saying that, like, our country was not built to stop, right? Or our economy was not built to stop. We're not ready to stop. And I think that's a problem if you think about it, right? We have gotten so used to an always-on culture. We've gotten used to things just always going. But, right now, even myself, I find looking into the past, looking into history, and even looking into religion, of course, during this time. But, there's that saying, right, about like how even God had one day to rest. And I think maybe if we use that as sort of just a story, right, a cautionary tale even for ourselves, is that at some point we gotta rest. We may glorify the always on and just the hustle and the working all the time, but I think it's really being highlighted now how important rest is, even for our planet, right? We by resting, I'm hoping that it's giving the planet some space to breathe, to rest from all of our activity, and even for ourselves. But with this, right, don't sacrifice the country. People are scared. They don't want the economy to stop, right? Because if it stops, what does that mean? But I think really, from a leadership perspective, I think as tough as this is, we need to go through it. Because we've constantly been trying, and if you look at especially like Western culture, you look at our behaviors, right? When we get sick, what do? We pop pills, right? Oh, just get rid of the sickness because sickness equals bad. What if sickness was actually a sign or a signal to you that, hey, you need a rest. Hey, you're obviously not doing something right. You need to just chill out for a second and not do anything, right? So, it's just one to think about. Maybe this is what's happening at a national, global level now. We are being forced to just sit down, right, and stop, reassess, and reevaluate from there. Nobel Prize winner shares some good news about the coronavirus pandemic. So, I've heard this quite enough times about, hey, the real situation is not nearly as terrible as they make it out to be. Yes, statistically, if you look at the numbers, it's still quite low, but I think what we're looking at here is not just the coronavirus numbers. We're looking at something that has been needed to happen for a long while now, and it's happening. It's going to be devastating for a lot of people. But then again, a lot of people have not been listening. They have not been preparing. Because they've just come to expect that things are going to keep going up, right? And so when this time comes, it's a humbling experience, in my opinion. You got to look at, damn, what did I not listen to? Why did I not listen to that? What can I do differently? Who can I lean on during these times? So yeah, here this Nobel Prize winner, is talking pretty much about like the importance of just continuing to do the social distancing, um, as you can see here, right? Getting vaccinated against the flu. But yeah, you can see here as well, Italy, right? Italy's strong anti-vaccine movement likely played a factor in the explosion of cases because the spread of the flu likely was a factor in overwhelming hospitals and increasing the chances of coronavirus going undetected, right? Yeah. So, even though they say the coronavirus pandemic is not the end of the world, I think it is the catalyst for the end of the world as we know it. I think you can agree most people right now are starting to feel the economic impacts of the coronavirus, right? So, although I understand this, and it's important to stay positive and hopeful, but at the same time, you have to be realistic and really look at what is currently happening while still maintaining that future expectation, right? That things are going to get better, it's going to get good, right? But not before it gets a lot worse. So, I still stand by the prediction that we are going to go into depression. But with that, I believe in humanity. I believe in our ability to come out on top. Um, and I think this is going to be a time for us to really see how well do we react, right? Are we going to maintain our humanity, or are we going to become just like animals, and do only what's best for ourselves and play out the movies and the TV series that we've seen about, post-apocalyptic scenarios? I think we can do better. I think we can learn. And that's what I'm going to maintain. The next bit here, big tech could emerge, and I've got just two more pieces before we wrap up this episode. But big tech could emerge from coronavirus crisis stronger than ever, and I would agree. I think yesterday I spoke about Teams, Slack, and all these other sort of online products, Zoom, that are being used like crazy right now as a result of everybody working from home. And they've been really well positioned. Call it lucky, call it what you want, to be able to take advantage of these times. And so I think definitely we're going to see a lot of innovation right now for people who are going to create, potentially online products to serve people working from home, to serve people connecting with one another, and to build true communities. Because that's actually what I'm most interested in as well, right? It's like, how do you build true communities in this modern world without losing the humanity, without losing sight of the people that we're building for, right? I think it's possible. I think it's definitely doable. So I'm excited. I hope to be contributing to this. We're working on some things in the background, and we'll let you know. Okay, so yeah, in this particular one, let's have a look. Companies were, yep. Yeah, so really, this is just all about like how the largest tech companies will emerge on the other side. So you can see here, let's look at this. Advertising, the lifeblood of Google and Facebook, tends to suffer during economic downturns. The stocks of Apple, etc., have collectively lost more than $1 trillion. Yes. But communication tools like Zoom, as mentioned, are now essential. But ride-hailing firms like Uber and Lyft, property rental sites like Airbnb are seeing customers vanish. Yes, right? And this is interesting, right? Because you're going to see guys like Uber, and I think this goes back to the Silicon Valley push of like, go big or go home. Like those type of companies have benefited off of the insane amount of wealth, flowing out of places like Silicon Valley and other investors, right? Where they felt like they could just not even look at the fundamentals of business, right? It's like, how are you going to make money? Can you make money from this business model, or is it literally just about putting in all this like external investment money, going out and try to steal as much as you can, grab as much as you can, and go from there? I think in terms of long-term sustainability, right, that is proven not to be a very good business strategy, right? Uber, I think, is going to be, it's going to suffer from this, as are many other ride-hailing firms in general. Property rental sites like Airbnb, man, I love Airbnb, but yeah, I can see how this will become an issue. But, again, I think we will see some pretty innovative solutions, because you're going to have very smart people come together and think about like, okay, people aren't coming in. What can we do? Maybe you can just turn like Airbnb homes into like quarantine zones for families or something, right? Where they just might stay there for 1 or 2 months until things settle down. That's a possibility. There are a lot of people stranded out in other countries. Maybe try that. And then, it's just going to be very interesting to see how the tech industry benefits from this or find solutions. And so, keep an eye on this. All right, yep, here we go. Voice calling over Facebook, of course. I mean, I've already experienced this. Voice calling over Facebook's WhatsApp messaging service has doubled in volume. All right, actually, there is a thing called NetflixParty.com that I'm going to share with you guys. This is great during this time. So you can see, right, if you love Netflix and you want to watch with your friends, just install this Chrome extension and you can actually sync up your Netflix watching. So, family, friends, loved ones, you'll be able to, just watch together. So I tried this out over the weekend and got to say, it was pretty cool. All right, last two. Another one, I told you I was gonna, talk a little bit about the astrology side. Now, whether you're into it or not doesn't matter. I'm pulling this in because it just syncs up with many other trends, whether it's be economic trends or it all comes together, right? So right now we're going through something called a new moon in Aries. What it essentially means is that in astrology, right, there are certain periods in time where certain planets align, and what comes with it is certain types of energies. Now, what's interesting is in the astrology world, they actually predicted that in 2020, during this time, it is when a whole bunch of other astrological cycles come together in one time, right? And we move into a new astrological year, and as a result, we are now in the astrological year of Aries, or the new cycle, the new astrological year, starting with Aries. Aries is the first of the signs. And with that comes new beginnings. So if you can read here, this period is about new beginnings, an opportunity to reset our goals and mindset for the month ahead, right? Sounds fitting. Aries is the part of us that wants to look forward, not backward. It is the brave and intuitive part of us that can think on its feet, especially under new and unforeseen circumstances. However, this moon's ruler is currently in Capricorn, and will give this new moon a grounded sense of reality, a box with clear and defined limitations in which to get creative. And so how this translates to me is, again, freedom through self-discipline, right? You're going to look at things into the future. You're going to be thinking about how to reinvent or reset things, but at the same time, you're like, okay, especially now, how is it going to be practical, right? How am I going to do things that will keep me grounded in a practical sense during this time? So it's about going back to basics again. So the new moon, once you get inspired by the practical and realistic, no matter how small these moves may feel, they are still moving us forward. No matter how unclear the future may seem, let us continue to put one collective foot in front of the other. How I interpret this is about, like, just right now, we don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? So it's very hard to plan right now based on everything that's going on in the world. And what this means is that you can only really take one day at a time, one step at a time. And I think if everybody does this collectively, it will just help us get out a bit more safely, right? I will say this, not everybody is going to come out this unscathed. Everybody is impacted. So you have to get very real with yourself. Don't be afraid. Understand the dangers, but remember, fear is always a choice. It's always an option. Okay, so don't give in to fear. And again, just remind to do what you have to do, and that's all you can do. Finally, I'm just going to share this post by a entrepreneur by the name of Daniel Priestley. He is a founder of a company called Dent, and also a personal brand accelerator called Key Person of Influence, for which I've done in the past, and it was great. So I highly recommend it. But Daniel recently put in a group, I believe that we are going through a once-in-a-decade opportunity. There's a massive gift in this, a chance to redefine yourself and your business. So again, aligning with some of these astrological trends. If you want to discuss it, I'm hosting some reset and reinvent sessions. So what I'm looking at here is just the reset and the reinvention phase, right? So Daniel was probably the one to bring up the reset bit. When I saw that, I said, yeah, this is definitely in line with what's going on right now. And, I think it's just, again, very important to realign yourself right now. I put up a story on my IG recently about everyone is either working or resting at the moment. Which one are you? 90% of people who are following me on Instagram said they're working, right? And then about 10% were resting. And man, I am definitely feeling tired at this point in time, but because I acknowledge the opportunity right now, I'm also excited, and I want to be doing stuff and helping out as much as I can because I see the opportunity to. And I think those of us who do put in the time and effort right now, they will be rewarded. But you got to remember too that don't forget those around you. Don't forget your present circumstances, and just look out for one another. All right. So with that, as always, through patience and persistence, it will come. I'll see you tomorrow.